Welcome to the B-Sound Podcast. Today we welcome Cora and Fred from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin-based band Ratbath. Their bio describes the band as all queer, all the time, spooky country core. Their debut album, Rat from Hell, comes out on February 18th. Welcome to the podcast. Let's start off by telling everyone who you are.
Hi, I'm Fred Kenyon. I am the vocalist for Ratbath.
Cora Bequeaith, she, her, hers, guitarist for Ratbath.
Yes, my pronouns are they, them.
So, I'm curious, where does the name Ratbath come from?
Well, there once was a rat, and he needed a bath. He smelled pretty bad. So
You just had a smelly rat running around?
Well, I had a pet rat named Rathu. And if you look at like really old pictures of us on our social media, you'll see him in like group shots and stuff. I think it was a combination of having him as a pet and also like somebody sent me like a meme of like a rat being given a bath, and it was just one of those cute animal things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, my next band's gonna be called Ratbath, like as a joke. And then we were like, nah, that actually is pretty cool. So there's not a whole lot of depth to that one.
Well, it's a pretty cool name. I imagine you get a pretty good reaction from it. It
rolls off the tongue.
It does. It does. It really has like a nice ring to it. So let's discuss Ratbath a little more. Like, what's something important that you think people should know about Ratbath?
Well, as our bio stated, we are an all-queer band, in fact, an all-trans band, and that's something we're pretty vocal about. I don't know what else people need to know about Ratbath.
I mean, to elaborate on that, because we've been asked in other interviews, like, why do we feel the need to say that we are all trans? And Cora had put it really well in the past, that a lot of music scenes, especially the music scenes that we align to, because we are a country/hardcore band, are kind of overrun by cis narrative and like kind of, how did you put it?
It's a lot of just like male chauvinism, toxic masculinity kind of stuff is certainly something I've experienced, particularly in like local hardcore scenes. So that's, something we're trying to push back against, make more space for people who aren't just like hyper aggressive cis dudes to have fun at hardcore and punk shows.
Yeah, and it's not that trans people don't exist in the scene, because like they super do, but like we want to make ourselves as visible as possible so that, like she said, that there's space for others to do so.
And have you found like a home that way? Like, have you found more and more people gravitating towards you because of that?
Actually, yes. I think we get a lot of show referrals because of that. We also like, when we are booking shows, we try to book like mixed genre bills in Milwaukee, because like I think personally, like as someone that spent time booking professionally in Milwaukee, more people show up if there's more variety. If you book 3 indie bands, you're gonna get like every single underwhelming white guy from River West at your show, and that's it. And instead, if you're, booking a hardcore band and maybe like a crossover band, maybe a hip hop artist, and maybe like a stream pop band, like you're gonna get like several different like pockets of like friends and people coming together for a show, and people are gonna meet new people are gonna find new music that they like, and like I kind of really don't ascribe to the notion that like every show has to be like super fluid in its genre. Like I think that kind of kills some shows. But to answer your question, because that was a bit of a tangent, I guess, I think that us being an openly trans band has allowed us to connect with other openly trans artists, and the continuity there, like, oh, you're queer too? Let's do a show.
Yeah.
Other Ratbath fun fact, on a slightly less serious note, but we originally formed as a My Chemical Romance cover band.
Oh, nice.
Country cover.
And I'll just bust in and say, hey, I'll take the total blame. I had an issue with my internet, and we're starting from here.
One of the things you were talking about is that both Fred and I had not so secret intentions to try to like turn that into a full band project beforehand, but that's how we initially like got everybody on board. And we played a My Chemical Romance country cover set Halloween of 2019, which was the first show with the original Ratbath lineup.
Yes, that also was the official date that I peaked, not just as a musician or an artist, but as a person in general. I will never be cooler than I was when I was dressed as Jardway singing an MCR country cover set.
Oh, yeah. I think I actually remember seeing that on Instagram. Looked fabulous.
But it caused MCR to get back together.
They did. They announced that they were getting back together. Yeah. Yeah. So I take full credit for that. To any MCR fans that are listening, you are welcome.
Thanks for you then for doing that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to my good friend Gerard Way.
So it goes without saying you are a fan of the band then.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, at this point, we're kind of their inspiration.
Ah.
Yeah, you see, because they got back together on account of our country cover set.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll hear that in their new music and stuff.
Yeah. They're probably going to, like, reference us directly, Fred and Cora, our best friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's talk about the Ratbath album. What's the name of that again? Rats from Hell?
Rat from Hell.
Rat from Hell. What's the concept behind that?
It is a very heavy conceptual album. That's a technical term. And it's about a witch who, in the very beginning of the album, realizes something is not quite right. The skies around them has turned yellow. And a demon breaks into their house, and their powers are all of a sudden useless, and they can't fight the demon the way they normally would, and so they're forced to physically attack it. And that is actually the first song telling that story. And they go back in the next song to explain like who this demon is, or who the demon was paid by to come after them. So the backstory of it is that the witch had been had spoken out against a previous abuser, and that abuser in retaliation paid a bounty for the witch, and the demon is now coming after the witch. And throughout the album, the witch is kidnapped by the demon at some point, falls in love with the demon, falls out of love with the demon, escapes, the demon comes back, the witch, threatens it. Eventually they regain their powers. They say the line that's one of the more powerful lines in our album, "If you touch me again, I will take your fucking hands." But the point of the demon in the story is that it is the personification of trauma. So in every song that the demon appears, it is actually appearing in a different way that trauma manifests in someone's life. We have the song "At Least You're Lonely Too," where the witch is falling in love with the demon. And sometimes we deal with trauma in a way that we are romanticizing it, or longing for it, or longing for the cause of the trauma to come back. There's the song "Meat Puppet," which we released recently, where the witch is, regaining their power and angry and saying like, if you touch me, I will take your hands. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways that it shows up in real life, and this is shown
allegorically.
Yeah. I was going to say metaphor, and I knew that wasn't the words, I think.
Yeah.
So what about the and I just want to say that I helped on this album. I helped mix it and whatnot, and I think it's excellent. I love every song on there. First of all, I think every song is a great piece of songwriting. The musicians are great. The vocals are great. It's just a good entire piece of music, right? And this isn't just me blowing smoke. Like I really believe this, right?
Well, thank you, Dan.
Yeah, you're welcome. I call it as I see it. I'm not going to lie or anything. So I guess as someone who mixed it, can you take me through how the album was recorded?
Yeah, so we recorded all of it in Fred's house, and they have a side room where we set up our little makeshift studio, which is, very much in line with kind of my recording methods for a while. We've done a lot of DIY type music projects together.
I believe we mentioned before the internet cut out that we were in a folk duet with each other, and for years, and the band was called Tiny Hands, and every Tiny Hands piece was also recorded in a closet or bathroom of sorts.
Huh.
But yeah, this album was recorded in very much the same tradition. We set up, sound baffling and microphones just in like the closet and side room in Fred's house. It was just about wide enough to fit the drum kit in there. And there was a separate closet that we'd use for amps and vocal tracking. So for most of the vocals on the album were actually Fred standing in like a dark room because there wasn't a light bulb in there, and this little closet with maybe like a phone flashlight singing into the microphone.
Wow.
I'm going to spend the rest of the interview like this because this is the one that's causing the problem. So.
Oh, wow. That should be the thumbnail of this video. So was everything recorded individually? Like you recorded the drums first and then the guitar?
Yeah, we did scratch tracks with the full band that we just, threw a couple mics on our like practice space in the basement. Played through all the songs and used those for scratch tracks, and then went back and did drums and then bass, and then depending on the song, usually guitar and then vocals after that. There were some last minute adjustments that had to be made too, as per usual, especially with adding some of the vocal harmonies and scream effects. Our drummer Emmett is very good at doing just like the hardcore death metal screaming, so we had to add a little bit of that.
Which we actually discovered that on my birthday at the beginning of this year, because we hosted a virtual open mic for my birthday, and Emmett's performance of choice was a karaoke song where he was just screaming, I'm your dad," over and over again, and we were very impressed.
Yeah, yes. Using that like guttural like death metal scream. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And then you had some other guests on the album, right?
Yes. So we actually had the honor of our good friend Johanna Rose, a feature on the album on the climactic, or I guess would that be climactic, or it's the end of the story, but it's also climactic.
Yeah.
In its own way. Cathartic, I think, would be a good word to describe it. But it is on the song Sweet Puppet, which also has been released as a single. They are featured. They did a beautiful job. They're a local artist from Milwaukee. They are actually living in a tree house in Vermont right now, and started a new band called Lavendula that is very lovely. You should check them out. But I was really honored to have them on the track because that song is personally I'm of all the songs I've written in all of my life, that is the one song that I'm the most proud of. So I'm glad that it came together the way that it did.
Yeah, it's very good. And the way that they sing on it really helps highlight what you're trying to get across.
And they had, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we pretty much just sent them like the rough for that track, and they took it from there. So
from a tree house in Vermont.
Recorded in the tree house.
I believe so, yes.
That's great. That's fantastic.
All of my dogs really want to be part of this interview.
Hey.
We should introduce them. I feel like at this point.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is Red Serenity Under a Moonless Sky. This is Lady Chicken Rudolph Estella Pigletta Kenyon, but we are now calling her Piglet, is short. And then this one, this little one is Hubert Bunny Jolene Clover Kenyon. Yes, and she goes by Bert. So
okay.
They're not part of the band, and they did not help with the recording at all, but they do feel entitled to some of the spotlight today.
Oh,
so.
Speaking of the songwriting process, what is your songwriting process like?
It depends. In the past, I am someone who, and you actually know this, Dan, because many, many, many years ago, you and I were in a band together.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm someone who kind of starts with the lyrics and then writes a song around that. I realize that's not how it normally goes for most people, but so it kind of just depends. A lot of times I'll come up with lyrics and bring them to Cora and show work on a riff. A couple of the songs were songs that the chord progression and lyrics were written entirely by me over the pandemic while Ratbath was on hiatus, and we actually added them to the album after the fact. So pre-pandemic, there was a different version of this album, and post-pandemic, we had a bit of a lineup change. Our keyboardist quit, and we had a guitarist join us, so some of the parts changed, the sound changed a little bit, and we added some songs, and we went back to the old songs and like gayed them up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
There are a couple songs on the album also, one being Spit Swallow, which was the first single we released, that were a little more instrumentally driven. That one in particular is based around like a guitar riff I wrote several years ago that never found its way into a song. And so with that one, we kind of started more with the instrumentals, and Fred added lyrics and a vocal melody later on.
Yeah, and I think we try to have a variety between songs that are lyric-centered and songs that are instrumental-centered to give that variety. I think our past project was just a lyric-heavy project, so we were trying to lean into instrumentals more with this one.
Yeah,
I see.
We have other talented musicians working with us now, as opposed to just us two clowns in tiny hands.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't undersell yourself there, because a couple songs of those guitar solos were pretty ripping.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You mentioned that you gayed them up or whatever, but like I'm like a straight dude, right? But like I really enjoy the songs anyway, right? So
I'm glad that our gay songs can be enjoyed by the straights.
Yeah.
Great.
For a wide audience.
That's great news, Dan.
I'm just saying, maybe they're made for a gay audience, but like I think that because they're so heartfelt, anybody who has a heart can understand where it's coming from.
I don't think they're made for a gay audience, but we actually, in another interview with the full band, our drummer made a really good point of saying, like, look, this can be enjoyed by anyone, but like it is a queer experience that we're writing about, especially like the connection between characters that are normally seen as evil or bad, and how like historically witches are like queer coded in like television and old movies. Well, we're kind of taking that back, and we're like, well, this witch is queer, like it's a non-binary witch, and it's actually the protagonist of our story, and they're not bad or evil, maybe a little scary evil.
Perfect.
Yeah. The witch has some problems, but definitely not sinister or malicious.
Right.
Yeah. So how was this recording different from doing past recordings?
Well, this is once again, working with a full band, like, requires a little bit more effort. And was something that I, had to step outside of my comfort zone a bit and actually like do some research and experimenting with how to mic a full drum set in a way that sounds good and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, is there anything else you want to add?
Maybe not about recording specifically, but just talking about the progression from like the folk punk project to this. We kind of like came to the decision to start Ratbath as a way that we could lean into what each of us were specifically like skilled at. So Cora is a phenomenal instrumentalist, phenomenal string player. As you mentioned with the guitar solos, they're very good. I am more apt to sing and do vocals, and also with this project, with this decision to, separate from a project where we were both playing our little instruments and singing, and it wasn't really centered around being good, but more about like being funny or like having kind of a shtick. I definitely like had to push myself vocally in like my vocal skills, and have become a much better singer in my own opinion than I used to be. My range is better. I mean, I had a really good range in high school, but then, like I smoked cigarettes for a really long time and that kind of went away. So like I gained some of that back, and like just, I learned how to scream without like actually hurting myself. And that was something I had to research and practice. So, this was a project, the beginning of this project was sort of, us deciding that we were going to push ourselves.
Sure. So you were never like trained by anybody or anything like that. You've kind of learned on your own.
Other than being in like choir in high school, I've never been professionally trained vocally. Never had professional lessons or anything.
I think that you sing really well for either way, because I think, because like you're really good at like letting emotions come through with each word. Right? Like that's one of the things I like about your singing is you'll hang on a word in a certain way and let that emotion come through just, every single word.
Thank you. It's a really nice compliment.
You're complimenting Fred's singing. I think it's really cool on this album, especially how I feel like you have like more variety in your delivery and your vocal performance. A lot of Tiny Hands was, pretty similar in terms of like vocal delivery for all the songs. We would maybe go like quiet and then loud and scream at some point. But here, as you mentioned, I think there's like a lot of emotional and also like narrative elements that are conveyed through just like the vocal quality and vocal performance. And it's used as like part of the storytelling device where, Fred's voice will sound different in different songs depending on kind of where we're at in the story, where like the witch is at with the relationship to their trauma and such, which I think was a really cool way that we could gay it up even a little more.
I'm sensing a segue here, as they say. We were going to share that this story of this witch that is rendered powerless and has to learn new ways to fight and defend themselves and resolve their trauma is actually very closely based on my own personal story and my own personal journey with trauma. So that maybe where you're hearing the emotions coming in. But yeah, I definitely tried to make each song sound a little bit different vocally in the performance aspect.
Yeah, it's got a wide variety of, I mean, you say you're alt country, but there's a wide variety of styles and genres on there as far as between alt country and punk and, everything in between that.
That's kind of funny because like the first single we released off the album was Spit Swallow, which Cora I mentioned before was from an old riff. And I was sending it out to people and kind of pitching it because I'm working on booking tours for us. And one person's like, "Are you sure you're country? That sounds like punk or like Riot Girl, like, which is really cool." I mean, like they were not wrong. That is our least country sounding song, and we released it first. But I think we still like stay true to the country bones of it, if you will, with like our cowboy chords and like a lot of the bluesy riffs that we throw in.
Sure.
Or Cora throws in. I don't riff.
I'm curious, Cora. Have you had any mentors or anything to teach you on guitar and the multi instruments? I mean,
I took guitar lessons for a good bit while I was in middle school and high school. Shout out my old teacher James Bean at the Central Iowa Music Lab. I think are still doing their thing over there. And then after that, I was kind of on and off with it. I think I took like one semester of jazz guitar in college. I did a little bit of drum lessons. Yeah, by and large, I've had a fair amount of guitar instruction, and that was really kind of where I got started. And then have just been in bands pretty much since I was 14 years old, and a lot of the different instruments are just kind of things I picked up because, oh no, our drummer quit. Somebody has to learn to play the drums, so I'll do it. And they're somebody has to learn to play the bass. It's kind of similar to how I learned to do recording engineering stuff. Really is, a lot of the bands I was in high school were very much DIY till you die. We had an old 8-track tape recorder and maybe a couple 57s that we would try to make an album with. So a lot of it's just kind of trial and error, and eventually you figure out what works and what doesn't.
Right. Yeah. I can actually relate to that story. A lot of everything that I pretty much do is because of nobody else would do it or nobody else could do it. So it's well, I'll learn real quick and try to figure this out. So yeah, I can totally relate.
Yeah.
I started laughing there because I was thinking of Cora's old band, or a band that Cora learned part in, called. It had a really bad band name. I'm not going to say it, but they played my birthday show years and years ago, and forgot their set and just pretty much jammed for 45 minutes, and the whole time she's on drums, just and that was a pretty good birthday.
How long have you guys known each other, you two?
We've known each other for 6 years. We have been, I believe we were best friends since the first moment we met.
We didn't figure it out till a little bit later.
Yes. Well, we met back in the day when I still consumed alcohol. We met while I was crying in the alley, and I looked up at her and said, "Who the fuck are you?" And she goes, "We've been hanging out all day, Fred." So that it was best friendship from that on.
Mm-hmm.
I could see why. I know that you guys are up for best alt country band in Milwaukee. Can you speak on that at all?
It's really exciting. I don't really we've never been nominated for anything since we've moved to Milwaukee. So I think just being nominated is exciting and an honor. We feel that if we did win, it would be really, really cool because as we discussed at the beginning of this podcast, that we are openly trans, and we try to provide space for other queer people to exist in the scene by being so open about that. So I think if we did win that title, it would be a huge honor to be able to represent not only alt country in Milwaukee, but trans alt country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Best of Milwaukee Awards, you see the Shepherd Express. So
yes.
I'm sure we'll throw up a link to the voting for that. But
yes.
Voting is still open through December 2nd. So.
And I believe anybody can vote. I've read that website front and back. They don't say anything about whether or not you need to live in Milwaukee. But you do have to vote for 5 different categories in order for your vote to count. So you do have to at least have an opinion on 5 different things in Milwaukee.
I'll put a link, by the way, in all the descriptions and everything. But yeah, I voted for you, and you were like, "Oh, you got to vote for 5," and I'm like, "Oh God, what do I vote for?" And then I looked around, and I'm like, "Well, I like cheese curds. I'll vote for this," and you can find stuff to vote for too.
I mean, it's pretty easy to do the research too,
and that's fun too, just to get out and check out different bands and things, and and really.
And Milwaukee has a pretty cool music scene. I think that's why we wanted to move here in the first place. I mean, it has its flaws, as most cities do, but I wanted to move to Milwaukee personally because I saw right off the bat how strong communities were here, and like how, you know, maybe the infrastructure and the systems within Milwaukee are not great, but the people here look out for each other and care for each other, and like neighborhoods here look out for each other.
Yeah.
It's a good place.
Has it been difficult to during the pandemic, like to get gigs and things like that in Milwaukee?
Nothing shows started being a thing again. We definitely weren't playing until like I'd say well after the vaccine came out.
Yeah, I think it was August or September of this year was our first like show in person back as a band.
It was late July because it was actually my sober anniversary. That's right. But it was an outdoor show. Yeah. So the first like indoor show we played wasn't even until October. And we had all been long vaccinated at that point. But like we actually went on hiatus at the beginning of the pandemic. And then came back and sort of, I don't want to say rewrote, but revamped everything. And then we had been presented with opportunities to play prior to that, but we did not take them because at that point it wasn't safe.
I will say, I think since the pandemic, like the shows that we have played or other shows that I've been to, like have been generally very well attended. And it seems like a lot of people are, you know, excited about being able to go to shows again. I know that's something I was very excited about once, we finally got, finally got the vaccine out and felt safe, occasionally leaving the house.
With a grain of salt, though, I agree with that, but I also believe that people get tired a lot sooner at shows.
Also true.
Like, I have not seen anybody, like, out, like, on a bender or, like, just going all night, like go to a show and like punk time where the show starts too late. Like I feel like punk time is starting to not be a thing anymore, and people are like, no, we're starting on time so we can all go to bed.
Yeah. I know my own kind of social threshold has gotten a lot lower post pandemic, where I was like, you know, be hanging out with a couple of people for an hour and like, God, this is exhausting. I'm gonna go home.
I know my threshold went down too. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just say that's like all the more reason that I enjoy being able to like play shows and go to shows, because I feel like that's one of the key things that will reliably like get me out of the house and to actually go interact with other people.
Yeah,
which is much needed.
I put everything on hiatus too, and it's like. It's hard. It was hard to get back into the swing of things, and even still, it's a little bit like it's still a little weird sometimes. I think,
yeah,
for sure.
One thing I have to thank the pandemic for is that I actually learned how to play guitar. My hands was centered around like us playing tiny instruments, and like I played like ukulele, violin, mandolin, never guitar, and like. I've been a part of music projects for years, as you know, and like I've never played guitar. I've never I always thought I would just be bad at it. So I never learned. But like something about like it being the dead of winter and there is literally nowhere to go and nothing to do makes you really want to go out to the used music store and buy a guitar and then lock yourself in your room for a couple days.
Right. Are you playing guitar in Ratbath then?
I am not. I did release earlier this year a solo album that features Ratbath songs that were remade into Ratbath songs, and I intend on releasing another solo album similar to that.
And those are on the Ratbath Bandcamp, though, right?
They are on the Bandcamp. They are not on the Spotify, but they don't need to be on the Spotify. You know, the Bandcamp's the secret spot for the good shit.
Yeah, that's
the real niche stuff. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, only Ratbath super fans will know.
So on this album, what was your biggest hurdle, and how did you overcome that hurdle?
I don't know that this was the biggest hurdle, but I mentioned earlier that this is a story written very closely to like a lot of my own like trauma, and there was one of our songs that I believe to be one of our best songs. It's Bone Eater. It's the second track on the album. And there was a while where at practice we could practice it once. And I was like, I'm not singing this the second time because it is hard to sing. Because I am revisiting events that have happened to me in my life in those lyrics. So I think that one of my hurdles is to trust myself to tell my story without letting it ruin my day. Also just getting over the fear of that story being heard. I mean, this album's going to come out. People, we've been advertising that it's, based closely on my own journey. People are going to hear it. People are going to hear my story. So, kind of letting go of that fear.
I really admire that. That's something that I work on a lot, is letting go of my own fears and things like that. And so, hey, I'm not that it means anything, but I'm proud of you for doing that. That's a good thing.
From like the musical standpoint, I think one kind of hurdle that we faced, well, I mean, first of all, just the pandemic itself, as we were gearing up to record this album the first time, everything got shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And then as Fred mentioned earlier, we did have a lineup change post-pandemic. Mm-hmm. So we found that, a lot of the things that were kind of working when we had a keyboard player weren't working so well, or like were just falling flat, and we had to like kind of go back song by song and like revisit some of the composition elements, come up with new riffs and just like more interesting things for two guitars to be doing. Because it's a big pet peeve of mine, is like I don't want to have just two electric guitars playing like the same bar chords the whole time on every track.
I think you and Roz do a really good job at like gaying it up, and I keep saying gaying it up, but you know what I mean, just making it interesting. Speaking of, if we mentioned a few minutes ago, the deep cuts, you can hear pre-pandemic keyboard Ratbath songs featuring our former keyboardist on the Bandcamp as well. So if you're aiming to become a Ratbath super fan, that's where you need to start.
I think that even though like there was kind of a hurdle there in having to rework a lot of those songs, in my opinion, like the album came out better for it, and like paying that extra attention like resulted in just like a more interesting and cohesive album overall. So I'm very excited to get it out there.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna like it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I hope so. Anyway.
I mean, I'm a little biased maybe, but I agree. And so that's probably why, because I remember you sent a few tracks and we were like, wait, don't get these. We're going to redo some of these. And
yeah,
there were a couple of last minute things.
There was one track I was told I was not allowed to redo the vocal part on again, because I redid it like 3 or 4 times.
Well, yeah, that is actually another good distinction between like this and earlier Tiny Hands recordings, is we didn't do more than like 5 vocal takes for any song, I think.
I'm growing.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to, if it wasn't perfect, we had to redo it.
Yeah, some of the old Tiny Hands are doing like 20, 22 like takes of one song just in a row until, which, to your credit, you're a perfectionist, so they came out sounding pretty good, but
but doesn't your voice get?
No, it's 4 takes per song.
Yeah, if you get like 4 good takes all the way through, one of those is probably usable. We don't have to keep doing.
Sometimes it's good to put limits on yourself, right? Because like if you don't, then you could do like 100 takes and then be like, I got to do it tomorrow because it's too much.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd wish you had known when you first started out in music?
A lot of things.
Yeah,
I mean, something you could give advice to somebody who's starting out, maybe.
Well, for me personally, and I mentioned before, Dan, you and I were in a band long ago, and there also deep cut of the internet recording of us sitting on my roof playing a song together that's very cute, and I revisit at times. We should put the link to that in too, actually.
All right.
But I'll dig it up and send it to you.
Cool.
But I actually I'm someone who has been writing songs since I could speak. basically. Like I've always written songs. I've always written poetry, but I never had the courage to play my songs or share my songs. It wasn't until I was 23 or 24 that I ever even stood on a stage and sang a song. And actually, since we're doing shout outs tonight, I'm going to give a shout out to one of my longest, bestest friends, Levi Dalnadar, who is now in Las Vegas. And he has a wonderful catalog of music under the name of Dalnadar. But he was the first person to be like, hey, let's play this song at this open mic, because like I was hanging out with him and we wrote a song together, and he's like, okay, so like let's go play it now, let's have people hear it now. So that was my first time ever doing that. And so I guess my advice would be like, don't wait, don't hold yourself back. You know, I was always just afraid that people wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
And even like with learning guitar, I was afraid I wouldn't do it well enough. So maybe if someone's interested in becoming a musician or starting to like put their own music out there, like Fred says, do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. Kind of similar to what I was thinking, but yeah, you know, I think a lot of the time, like, me in particular, when I was starting out, I was like really, really sensitive about getting any sort of negative feedback or criticism about my songs. And like, that definitely held me back as a musician, because like, there's certainly like, you don't need to care about everyone's opinion about everything you do. A lot of the time, you know, people who are like taking the time to listen to your stuff and tell you what they think of it, like there's stuff you can learn from that. So yeah, try to have a thick skin about criticism and like use it to your advantage, I guess would be my advice.
I think that's good advice, but I also am smiling, laughing, because we have received some pretty funny, like negative reviews as of lately.
You know, we've just been submitting music to a lot of blogs and websites and such, and some of our rejection emails are pretty funny.
Yeah. I think one was like, I just don't get how the vocals go with the music or something like that. And like, there was one that was really hilarious.
Yeah, I
can't think of it. It's just, yeah, and not that the criticism's bad or that it doesn't hurt us to see that, but sometimes we're like, oh, ouch. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes all you can do is laugh it off or just be like, well, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Person's cup of tea. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, exactly. What was I going to say? What are you into currently? Like
music-wise?
Sure, music-wise or anything. Is there any other, like you could be like, hey, I like making kites or something. I don't know.
I have really gotten into some like post-punk bands. Some of my like more recent favorite bands are Skating Polly, Mannequin Pussy, which is an insane band name. I've been listening to a lot of them. I've been making a lot of playlists lately for like different astrological events. Like, oh, Venus is in Sagittarius now. Here's a playlist for that. Oh, like it's Mercury retrograde again. Here's a playlist for that. I've started shamelessly putting our own songs on the playlist, not because I want to hear it, but because like I just want to like work our songs into the algorithm a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I've been making playlists for probably the past year or so, just like for fun, share with my friends.
That's cool. That's cool.
Music-wise, I've been on a real like kind of 90s or early aughts country kick for a while.
Oh yeah.
That's something. Well, it's also, you know, I live with two of the other current members of Ratbath. So we, you know, have some similar music tastes, especially me and the other guitarist, Rasheen. So we'll often be playing lots of Carrie Underwood. Lots
I believe there may be a Carrie Underwood or just early aughts country cover set at my birthday celebration next year. I've been told that may be in store for me.
We might do like Casey Musgraves or Miranda Lambert or something.
Oh, I would love that so much. That'd be good.
She's amazing. Love her so much. Anyway.
Well, that sounds like fun.
What I've been listening to recently.
Cool. I thought at first I was going to be like, when you said like 90s country, I was like Garth Brooks or something. Like I wasn't sure what to think. As far as social media, like what are your preferred social medias? I like asking this. I like seeing what people prefer in their social media.
I actually really like that you asked that question because we have divided every Ratbath social media page amongst band members. So only have to manage one page, and it also like syncs up with who likes to do what. Like I'm a big Instagram person, so I run the Instagram. Cora runs the Facebook. Roz does the Twitter. Emmett does the TikTok.
That's really cool that you can, delegate it that way.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Honestly, I've not been very online recently, which I think overall has been good for my mental health. So I've been kind of on a break from social media for a while, but it is, kind of one of the unfortunate necessities of playing shows, being in a band, promoting music.
Oh yeah,
gotta be on the social medias.
Yeah, booking tour without Facebook is very difficult.
Yeah,
and it's pretty much only good for booking tour and nothing else. Like Facebook has helped me with nothing except for booking a tour, not even promoting it, just booking it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I can agree with that too, because it's like I deleted every social media app from my phone, and I only will do social media when I get on my PC, and that's it.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I think that helps limit my access.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I wanted to ask you. I meant to ask this way earlier, but what would make the rest of your band happy if to hear you talk about?
We should ask them that. Well, this is a bit of a spoiler, but I think we all might be a little bit excited about this. But we are planning a tour in December, and in the promo for this tour and/or the events of this tour, there may be an appearance of Santa. So that's something that's a little exciting. I guess I can't speak for everyone.
We're getting ready. I think one of the next production tasks we're taking on is going to be making a music video.
Oh yes, there we go. That's it.
Everyone's pretty excited about that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. We have a whole concept worked out for one of our songs on the album that relates to the story of the album, but I think will be kind of a fun standalone video too.
Yeah, sure. We actually mentioned the song earlier. It's the one where the witch is starting to fall in love with the demon, i.e. starting to romanticize their trauma. And the scenes in the music video, not to give too much away, will be something to the effect of the witch character going on dates with the demon character. So it's not entirely planned out yet, but we hope that it is enjoyable to the public. And
cool. Yeah, are you bringing someone in for that to film it
Yep. Yeah, we have some artists line up, and yeah, it's a little under wraps still. But.
Okay, I won't ask too much about it then.
Under wraps in the sense that we don't have it fully planned out yet, but we're in the early production stages. But that'll be really exciting to work on. It'll be the first time we've made a music video for any of our music.
We have another music video idea where we're racing in go-karts and wiping each other out, and I feel like that's going to be a much higher production level. I don't know how we're going to pull that off without having somewhat a camera crew on another go-kart. So maybe someday, but that would be a really fun music
once
video.
We get signed to Sony or whatever.
Yeah.
There you go.
Once we have our multi-million-dollar contract.
So, I mean, I know you guys have a YouTube, right? Like, because I've seen maybe like a live video up.
Yes. Yeah. We make some acoustic demos and throw them up there for shits and giggles. And also just to kind of show people that we're still working on stuff. We are in the very early stages of writing a second album. So both at our live shows and on the YouTube channel, you will get little glimpses of that story.
Cool. Some behind the scenes stuff and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish I had asked you about today but didn't?
I mean, you didn't ask me how my day was.
Oh, how was it? To close it out here, where can people find you online?
We are everywhere on the World Wide Web. We are on the Spotify. Please go to our Spotify. We are on the Bandcamp if you wish to become a Ratbath super fan. We are on the Instagram, Instagram. We're on the Facebooks. We're on the TikToks. And we have a Twitter as well where we do the tweets. But the username is pretty much the same across the board. It's Ratbath MKE. Sometimes there's dots in between the words. Sometimes there aren't. But if you type in Ratbath MKE, you will find us.
Is the MKE, does that stand for Milwaukee?
Yes, that's the Milwaukee abbreviation.
Okay. Because at first when I had read that, at first I was like, Ratbath Mike, who is that? You know, I thought it was like...
Mike.
Yeah. That's what I thought it was at first, but then I realized that it was Milwaukee. So
I actually have multiple cousins named Mike. I have 2 cousin Mikes, so maybe it's one of them. Yeah. If either of my cousin Mikes are listening,
get them in a music video or something, maybe. Thank you so much for being here. And
thank you for having us.
Listen to Ratbath when they release their album in February. And yeah, thanks again.
Oh, Dan.
Yes.
Our Ratbath album release party will be at Cactus Club in Milwaukee on February 18th.
Ooh. Okay.
So if anyone in Milwaukee or the surrounding areas is listening, come to Cactus Club. Come hang out.
Sounds good. All right. Take care, you guys.
You too, Dan.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.